Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today I've got another episode, I guess you could say, of Listening To, which is the series where I tell you guys what I've been listening to lately and all of that stuff. And much like the last one I did, I'm actually going to be focusing on recent releases. There's been a lot of albums that have come out recently that I probably won't review all of them, or potentially, aside from one which I've already reviewed. I don't know if I'll review any of the other ones. I might, but I'm not sure, but I still wanted to talk about them. So I'm pretty much going to go in order from when these were released, so going from the earliest to the newest. And these are all albums that have pretty much come out between the last Listening To video and now, so like within the last month or so. So first up, I have The Heretics by Rotting Christ. This is kind of a weird album. Because they are a black metal band, but they aren't really the typical black metal style, if that makes sense. If you go and listen to them, and then you listen to your typical, like, Norwegian black metal band, like Immortal or Darkthrone or something, you'll probably see what I mean. But it's a really, really good album. I really, really like it a lot. Got a lot of really great songs on it. I've been going back to it quite a lot as well, actually. Kind of got a really dark feel to it that I really liked, and it's just overall a really solid album that I would definitely recommend. Next up, I have no idea how to pronounce the name of this band, even though it's incredibly short, but it's Seor, Forgotten Paths. So it's a black metal album, but it's got some kind of folk metal elements to it as well, which I did enjoy. Not one of my favorite albums of the year, I would say, but it was still pretty good. Then next up, of course, I gotta talk about the new Dream Theater album, Distance Over Time, which is a really fantastic album. It's the first album I've heard from Dream Theater, actually, which was also the case for pretty much all of the albums that I'm going to be talking about, save for like two, maybe. Yeah, this is the first Dream Theater album I heard, and I gotta say I was quite impressed. A really good album. I really enjoy it a lot. Definitely a really good album. I'll certainly have to check out more of the stuff that these guys have to offer. Next, of course, Demon Hunter with their dual album, War and Peace. I already talked about these albums extensively on this channel, so I'm going to skip it. Good albums. Been listening to them a lot, definitely a thumbs up for me, really like them, etc., etc. We have I the Mask by In Flames, which is a band that I still have yet to really dive into, but I do enjoy them, particularly their earlier stuff. This was supposed to be kind of a return to form for the band, I guess, bringing back some of their earlier elements of their music, because their last couple albums have been very kind of hard rock, alternative metal type albums. And while this album still has some of that, it definitely brings back some of those early melodic death metal elements as well. However, this album really didn't stick with me that well. I listened to it, and I enjoyed a few songs on it. I did think there was some songs on the album that I thought were pretty good, like I'm Above, Burn, and probably a couple others as well that I'm just forgetting. So there was stuff on it that I thought was pretty decent, and when I listened to it, I thought it was decent, but when I finished listening to it, I was like, okay, that was alright, but I'm not really going to listen to that very much after this point, because I pretty much just wanted to listen to it because In Flames is a band I'd like to check out a little more, and they came out with a new album, so I figured I'd listen to it. And really wasn't that impressed by it. I've heard better, it's not great, but I can definitely see for In Flames fans who haven't enjoyed their last couple albums, I can certainly see why they would be a little bit more relieved with this album. But for me, it just didn't really do a whole lot. However, next up I've got The Verdict by Queensryche, which is an album that I actually heard pretty recently, even though it came out about 2 weeks ago now. I really enjoyed it a lot. Definitely a lot of influence from Iron Maiden in at least this album. Again, this is the first album I've heard from these guys, so I don't know about the rest of their discography, but definitely a lot of Iron Maiden influence in these guys, which is cool to see. And I really liked this album a lot of great songs on it, enjoyed it beginning to end, overall really solid. Next I have The Grand Antiquation, I believe that's probably how it's pronounced, by Meadows End, which is kind of a symphonic melodic death metal band, I guess, if I had to describe them. That's probably the closest thing to what they are. And despite the fact that I am both a big fan of melodic death metal and symphonic metal, this album really didn't do much for me. Again, much like the In Flames album, I enjoyed it when I listened to it, and I thought it was good, but I didn't really think it was anything mind-blowing. I can't really see myself going back to it a whole lot, but it's a decent album. And then finally I have the album Hell by the band Tyr. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not completely sure. But I've heard it's pronounced a couple different ways or something, so I don't know. But this is kind of a progressive folk metal band, I guess you could say. And this is a really good album. Again, I believe the first album I've heard from these guys, although I've been a fan of them for a few years, I never really dove into them too much. I listened to some of their songs here and there, and I did really enjoy them, but I never actually sat down and listened to any of their albums from start to finish. So this is the first full album I've heard from them, and I did really enjoy it. Maybe a little bit long for my taste. Some of the songs felt kind of repetitive, so I think it could have been cut down a little bit, but what was there was pretty good, and I really enjoyed it. So that's pretty much for this video. Let me know what you guys think, if you've heard any of these albums, what you think of them, and all of that sort of stuff. And if there's any other releases that I might have missed that have come out in the past month, feel free to let me know those down in the comments. And that is pretty much it for this video, so I will see you guys next time.